All right, this is Tristan again with Translation Exchange. We'll go ahead and get started today. Today we're well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody that was able to join us this morning. We're going to be covering how to translate your WordPress site using both Translation Exchange and WPML. Joining us on the webinar today, I have Jonas Kessler, who's our Director of Business Development, as well as Michael Berkovich, who's our founder and CEO.
Great, thanks Tristan, appreciate the intro, and thanks everybody for taking some time out of your day to join us on this. Certainly if you're not able to join us for the entire duration of the webinar, or if you have some colleagues that weren't able to attend, we are going to be sending out a link of a recording to this webinar, as well as posting it on our YouTube channel within probably a day or two afterwards. So definitely keep out for it, and don't worry if you have to leave early or miss a part of it. We can definitely have that available so you guys can watch it at a later point. But again, I'm Jonas Kessler, Director of Business Development. And just to get started here, let you know we're going to go ahead and go through a couple of quick slides to give everyone an overview of where Translation Exchange fits into the general localization ecosystem. And then we're going to go ahead and pass the ball to Michael to give a great demo on our WPML connector. And then we'll open up the floor for some questions at the end. So feel free to go ahead and chat within the chat box, ask us any questions, and looking forward to getting some feedback from this. So again, thanks everyone for joining us here. Just to give some background, now the company is about 2 years old. It was founded by both Michael and Ian McDaniel, who both worked for a couple of companies down in the Los Angeles area. One was called Genie and the other was called Yammer. And Yammer has since been purchased by Microsoft, of course. But what they were tasked with was localizing both the entire Genie and Yammer websites and complete product offerings into up to 70 different languages. Needless to say, it was an enormous project, a great learning experience. And what they discovered was creating a solution that was very viable and had a lot of benefits, not only for those companies, but really any company who's at the stage of either trying to streamline their localization process, create a more efficient mechanism of getting that content to the global stage, or create a very easy one-step, pretty simple process in terms of getting into the translation game if you're brand new to getting any kind of content to the local or international stage, I should say. Now, if anybody's ever been involved in localizing, documents or any kind of content, obviously you know what a challenge it can be. Now, if you're just doing translation for something as simple as a Microsoft Word document, it's easy enough to go ahead and email that to a translation agency. They do what they do best and send it back to you translated. Of course, as we all know, this being 2017, content exists in so many more places than just Microsoft Word documents. You can have everything from big demand generation email blasts, of course, website translation through WordPress, even social media, HR, essentially vast other repositories of where content is stored these days. And it's a huge challenge, really, if you're trying to extract that content and get it to the agencies for translation. It involves a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of cutting, copying, and pasting, manual labor, so to speak. And of course, with humans, we're all prone to errors. So, you might miss a line or two of code or forget a punctuation mark, in which case it can really inhibit your ability to get projects out in a timely fashion. So the solution that both Michael and Ian came up with was creating these API integrations and software development kits, where with just a few clicks of a button, you can identify your source content, you can upload it into our system, choose the languages that you want it to get translated into, choose the vendor that you want it to get translated by, and any deadlines when you need it back, and then send it off for translation. And then the translation company can do what they do best, obviously, translate the actual content. It's sent to them in a very familiar file format, usually XLIF, and they can essentially send it back within the Translation Exchange platform so that the client can review it in context. And particularly for things like WordPress websites, you certainly want to look at what the page looks like before publishing it and going live. And you can send that back to the agency with any revisions or comments that need to be done. And then with just a few more clicks of a button, you can plug right back into your WordPress site, which we'll show you here in just a few moments in terms of the demo. But it really does cut down dramatically on the time that is involved in getting these projects to market. What might take, let's say, a month or two to get a website translated into a couple of languages. Imagine if you're trying to scale up and do 10, 20 different languages. It can really take a lot of time. And this software was really designed to cut down on that significantly. And our clients are usually seeing a reduction by about 60 or 70%, freeing up their marketing team to do a lot more international campaigning than they ordinarily would. Again, with the solutions that we've got right now, we're working with probably about 50 or 60 different API integrations. It's fairly customer demand driven at this point. We do have a pretty robust roadmap, but we've been releasing new integrations at a rate of about, I'd say, once a week or two. Of course, if there's a client that has a specific interest for any particular integration to be built, certainly let us know offline, and depending upon the scope of the project, we're more than happy to give you a little bit of an evaluation and see how long we can get it done on this side. But we like to think that we're kind of the global hub of all communication, and certainly almost any type of technology out there that we're able to build an integration to, we're definitely willing and able to do that. Now, just a sneak peek in terms of what we've been working on. It's a fairly dated slide here, but we've created integration connectors from obviously the marketing end of things, everything from e-commerce, marketing automation, social networks, even web CMSs, obviously WordPress, Drupal, Sitecore, Adobe. On the enterprise stack of things, looking at everything from HR management, knowledge base, documents, even sales and customer service apps like Zendesk and Desk. We do also employ a translation vendor marketplace, and obviously I'll preface this by saying, in case you weren't already aware, we're not a translation agency, of course. We're a pure SaaS technology company. So we don't really have any stake financially in who the client uses to get their translations done. If they're happy with an agency that they've been working with for years, happy with the quality of work, happy with the pricing, we're definitely not here to twist their arm and convince them to go elsewhere. Now, they can upload their translator or agency rather into our software, and they can be on board at the same time that the subscription happens as well. So it's usually no more than about a 30 minute to 1 hour phone call, where we can give all the instructions needed in order to be able to receive those projects and work within our platform. It's a pretty easy process. But for those who don't already have a vendor that they're working with, or just want to maybe benchmark a few different options, see if they can get maybe even better pricing, or perhaps there's a specific language string that they need that the other company didn't have, or maybe they're just looking for a company that is close enough to them in terms of geography where they can drive or walk into the office and be able to speak with them face to face. So again, they can utilize this platform to select up to 3 different translation agencies. They will each get the metadata in terms of what the project looks like, what languages it needs to be translated in, and those deadlines. And then the client would receive multiple quotes via email. So they can choose, again, the agency based off of whatever needs they have that seems most appropriate for that project. We do also utilize a shared translation memory database. For some of you who are familiar with the translation kind of world, you probably know what that already is. But for those who don't, translation memory is a pretty simple concept. It's basically a bank or a library of previously translated terms and phrases that can be leveraged at a later date to save you time and money. The idea is that once you've translated something once, you should never have to pay to translate it again. And the more and more projects you do within the platform, obviously the more that translation memory grows and the more you can leverage it for subsequent projects. So really, you see a significant drop in the terms of time and cost, obviously, the more and more projects you do. And of course, there's a lot of content that's repeatable, certainly on websites, on demand email generation blasts. You're not always going to be having brand new content from start to finish. There's a lot of older content that gets reused, and obviously this TM can be leveraged greatly to help you with the time and costs on that. In terms of some of the companies that have adopted the platform recently, really kind of runs the gambit here, large and small. GoPro is probably going to be the most familiar to American viewers out there. Jif, fairly big international medical health benefits provider. But really, we don't have any magic target per se. Obviously, in America, companies can be doing business for years and years, and it's really not all that critical to get your message out into more than just American English. It's really once they're at the point of being an enterprise-sized company, they're scaling, trying to break out to new language markets and new international regions, where they're going to need a process to help them scale. And in Europe, of course, if you're brand new and starting out, obviously you can drive for half an hour in any direction in Europe, and all of a sudden you're in a new language market. So it's really imperative that once you're starting out doing any business, you're broadcasting your message in at least a handful of different languages, or else you do leave potentially a lot of opportunity and money on the table. So whether it's a brand new company trying to break out into localization, or a larger company that's been doing it for years and just starting to realize what an incredibly inefficient process it is using 1990s kind of antiquated technology. That's what Translation Exchange was created for, and that's the value that it brings. That's pretty much it from my end. I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball off to Michael, who's going to go ahead and give you guys a quick inside view of the demo here and the connector for WPML. And of course, we'll open up the floor for some questions as well after the demo here. So pass the ball off to you, Michael, and it's in your hands.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the introduction, Tristan and Jonas. I'm going to share my screen right now to give you a quick demo. And thanks for everybody who joined us today for this webinar to see our technology in action. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, you look good from here.
Perfect. Right, so for this demo, we'll demonstrate our integration with the WPML plugin on WordPress. We've set up a simple site here that displays information about different national parks. It has a few different posts and maybe a couple of pages as well. So the site is configured right now to run with the WPML plugin behind the scene. So let me actually show you what it looks like. Here's a set of plugins. So WPML has been configured and is serving, I believe, set up, like about 8 different languages in the site. So when you go to the posts, you see that your original post, let me switch to English language here, you'll see that you have all those different other options available for languages for each post in the system. Now, so there are different ways you can work with the WPML, including placing orders through the WPM plugin itself. What we basically did is we extended the experience of the marketplace. That basically, rather than coming from the plugin itself, we build an enhancement that communicates with the plugin and exposes a certain set of APIs that we can communicate with. So basically, we're able to pull in the original content from WPML, translate, place it back, manage it inside of our system, and use all of the features of our technology and marketplace as well. So I'll give you an example of how it actually works, and then I'll show you some of the more advanced features of our system. So under plugins, all I did basically is install the Translation Exchange plugin. So once you install, if you go to the Add Plugins, Add New Plugin there, and search for Translation Exchange, you'll find the plugin, you'll add it in and activate it. So if you go to the settings of the plugin, you'll notice that there isn't really much to configure here. All it does, it recognizes that there is WPML already running on your site and automatically connects to it. So WPML itself has an internal API that is exposed and can be used by other plugins. So what basically we do is we extend that. And there's some instructions. There's a video here of how to use the plugin. There are instructions of what you need to do next. So basically, you do need to go to our system and configure an account. And then once you have an account, all you'll need to do is provide your information of how to connect to this website. So I'll show you right now what it looks like. If I go to the dashboard here, under the account section, you have many different types of linked accounts that you can import and publish data to and from. And here's the WordPress. I can click on configure here, and this is where I will provide my credentials. We can connect to the WordPress site in many different ways. This is just for the simplicity sake. I create an API user inside of WordPress itself, and all I need to do here is provide the URL of the WordPress site and then provide the credentials of that API user. So what I can do now is I have a project here called National Parks. That's the project where I'll store and configure all my data. And there is a section here for strings. So anything we'll be extracting from the WordPress site will appear here in this string translation memory database. By the way, this is actually also very useful. We are using all the translations that we have in the system. So if you already have a translation memory, we can use all your translations and use them across all the articles. We also have a separate section here for sources. Sources is where we organize all your posts and pages. So let me actually go, and I already previously imported Yosemite, one of the posts. Let me import a few more. So to get more posts to the system, you simply click on the Import Sources button here, or you have another button here, Import Sources as well. So when you click on it, it takes you to the screen where you can choose various sources where you can get the data from. So we'll scroll all the way down to WordPress and click on the WordPress here. Since I already established a connection with WordPress, it now gives me 4 tabs. So I can import the pages, and we only have one page there, which is basically about the site itself. Then I have all the posts. So it sees all the posts I've configured in WordPress, and now I can simply select them all and import all the posts. Let's wait a second. So all the posts are now in. And then let's go back to sources. And sources, you will see that now under the WordPress folder, you have all the 5 posts that I just imported. Now, you can from here preview posts. Let's say we're looking right now at the Yosemite post. We'll click on preview. This is what the post looks like. And I believe I already have some translations that I've previously done for this post. So I have Russian translations here. So I can actually click on the preview here as well and actually view it side by side. I can see the original version and the Russian version here. You can also change languages here as you navigate to preview different post versions. Now, once you translate, and I'll show you how you can actually translate the strings in different languages, you simply need to click on the Publish All button, all languages here, or Publish Individual Posts, whichever you prefer to push back to the WordPress. So for example, let's just click on Publish for Greek, and it just takes a second, and now this content just went back into the WordPress and gets stored under the post here. Let's go in here. So it will be stored under the Greek language, so it's already been translated. Let's translate a few other ones. Maybe a Korean line right here is empty, so let's push the same article in Korean language. Actually, I believe this one we already have done this. Let's maybe go to this section here, and I don't believe, actually, we've translated quite a few of them already. Let me see if there's anything. So let's actually order some translations and publish all the posts with different translations. So let's take the Yellowstone again. Let's look at the strings. We extracted the title and we only have a single paragraph in there, so both of them are here. So I'll place order translations here. Then we'll proceed with the order. Now I have 2 choices here. I can either request a translation quote from the vendors we have in our system, and then you will receive quotes from them based on the content we send them and the language we send them. Or I can choose a provider directly and place an order myself. So I'll do this option now. And for this demo, I'll just basically just focus on machine translation engines only. So I have a few here, so I'll use Google for this case. So we'll just, I mean, as you expect, the translation quality will not be the best because it's just using the machines. And I'll select a few languages here, the ones I haven't translated before. There's the Polish and Ukrainian. I don't believe I've done those before. And I'll just preview the order and complete the order. So now I can go to the order page and just wait a few seconds. Okay, so it's already actually done. So all of the languages have been completed. Now let's go back to sources. So now we'll see that actually all of the sources are now available. Let's look back here. So for the Yosemite article, we still have a lot of classes here that we need to fulfill right now. So I can go back in here and just click on Publish All Languages so I don't have to do one by one. So let's give it a little bit of time, and then we should be able to see all those appear in WPML in WordPress. So basically, as you can see, we extended the WPML core functionality, and we now can use professional translation agencies or machine translation systems to place orders for the articles. Actually, here, see, we were doing Yellowstone. So here, this entire Yellowstone is now translated. So all we have to do here is I can review the articles and publish them back. So let me see, let me look at the other languages. Let me go back and choose maybe Korean language here. So here's the article in Korean, I can publish it back. We can also automate the publishing, but we want to make sure that you still have a way for you to review the translations before they actually put them live. So if I go back to the site, so Yellowstone now, if I click on Yellowstone, it should be now available in Korean and Dutch, whatever languages I publish. Now, this is all good and great, but it's still, even with this approach, it's still quite a lot of work. So wouldn't it be actually great if we could do all of it completely automatically, so we didn't have to do any of this manual work at all? Because, you know, as a content provider and producer, I just want to focus on providing the content in my original language and sort of have some other system to handle it all. So everything I just showed you, you still have full control over it. You can still do all of the work manually. You can still review the strings. You can still review all your translation memory from here. You can also place orders manually and then publish all the articles back manually. But we can automate all of that. Actually, we can automate pretty much every step of this way. So how do we do this? We just recently introduced a new concept or new feature into our system called workflows. And I'd like to show you what it actually looks like. So if I click on the workflow, we've set up a WordPress automation workflow right here. So let me actually click on it and see what it does. So the workflow can be run in kind of 2 modes. One is basically just generic run. Kind of you can trigger it yourself and it will do all of the work that is described here. So I can pretty much translate this entire website using machines or professionals with just one click of a button. And then the entire thing will just be completed. And then at the end, I just will receive a notification that everything is done. Or I can do it as a context-based using triggers, which basically means that I want to set it up on a specific article. So when I work on an article and I save it, it will automatically realize that this is the article you just changed and will automatically publish it for you, translate and publish it for you. So what are the steps here? So the first step, as we start, the first step basically simply imports all of the content from WordPress. The next step, again, I set it up here to, you can choose which languages you want to translate here, but I've set up all the languages. So basically, as the content comes in, we'll use Google as a provider, but you can use any other provider. So it will delay, for example, if you don't use machine translations, which is almost immediate, it will put it in a state where you can request a quote. So every step of flow can have a weighted kind of period. So for example, if you place an order with professional translation company, obviously it won't be immediately. There will be some kind of delay, but the workflow will handle it nicely and communicate with you. So in this case, I actually choose a Google provider, which will be quite fast. And then I'll only, because I'm using machine translations here, I'll only use untranslated content. So then the order is placed. Then we're going to wait. I mean, I didn't have to wait for it, but if I went to publish from the order directly, then, you know, the order can be still in progress, and then we will publish not everything that's been already ordered. So I'm putting here a weighted kind of element in here. So I'm going to check out. So I'm going to wait for 1 day. Again, for machines, it doesn't really matter. I can reduce it to hours and minutes. But if you were to do it in professional translation company, for example, you can say that you wait for at most 3 days, and then it will go to the null area, which basically means that the order has not been completed within time interval you specified. So you can set up a separate workflow to handle the situation. You can maybe email the vendor, or maybe submit another order to the vendor, or there's many different things you can do on the null set. But in this case, we're just going to wait until the order is completed, fully done. And then once it's done, we're going to go to the publish step. And then the publish step, we basically will just target back to WordPress and publish all the languages. And then once it's done, we're just going to Slack about, we have an integration with Slack. So we're going to send a Slack message about the completion or success. So now, let's actually see how this workflow runs. Again, if I trigger the workflow manually from here, the entire thing will just run on all the articles. So it will import every article, translate them all, and then publish them all back. But what's interesting, you can actually run this workflow with triggers. So I have a trigger here set up. So basically, it's a trigger. You can add it from the screen right here, and it's only on a specific article when specific article changes. So let me click on resume on this workflow. Click on resume and click on OK. So now the workflow is now running. So if I go back to posts, and let's say I want to modify, so let's take Yosemite article. Now the workflow is running. I can go to Yosemite article, and I'm going to just go in here and add adding another line to this post. And then from here, all I need to do is basically do the update on an article. This should right now trigger the workflow and pass through. And then we should just wait a little bit of time, and then we should be able to get this article in the system. I can look at the orders. Let me see, the order has been triggered. Okay, so the order has been triggered, everything went through. Let me go back to here, and if I click on posts, I notice that all the posts are now translated. So not only they're translated, but I can actually go to Russian language here, and you'll see there is a new line that was added in there. So I can go back again to the English version. Let's go back to English and start editing in here. So editing another line here. So again, I can change the article again, remove this line, and say I basically I really meant to add this line here, and I save it again, update it. So basically, you can really just focus now on the original article. You don't have to do any more manual work. The entire process is done through the triggers, through the automation. And I believe, like, if I can go back to the article, I'll get notifications here. I'll notice that this line has now been moved to the bottom. Actually, not yet. It may take a little bit of time to process the second. Okay, now, boom. So it's actually moved to the bottom now. And if I look at any other one, you'll see that the line has now been moved to the bottom. So again, this is just a way for you to just focus on one specific language, and then everything else is done for you. Again, I'm doing right now kind of quick demo with the machine translations. Same exact result can be done with professional providers. We'll only be putting information to them that hasn't been translated, that hasn't been reviewed. So you only basically set up the payment with them and only pay for the changes. So, and we don't do it on revisions. We only do it when you're actually ready to publish. Because in revisions, you may be saving the article multiple times, changing it. So we don't really want to bombard the professional translation companies with unedited copies. So once you're ready, once you publish it, that's when the entire workflow can be triggered. It can be customized and many things can be done. So let's actually just translate this entire thing. So to translate everything at once, I simply go to the workflow and I'll just manually trigger this workflow for everything. So just do this, and now the workflow is running. It's going to start translating. It will start placing orders here. I'll notice that as soon as the orders are passing through, it will basically do all the work for us. And once it's done, everything will be translated. We'll see everything here marked as translated. I will basically we'll wait and we'll come back to it a little bit later. So that's kind of it on my side. Please, back to you, Jones.
All right, thanks, Michael. Great demo there. Looks like we've got a queue of a few questions here. First one looks like it's from Brett. Brett asks, what is the average turnaround time to get a WordPress site translated using professional agencies? And I can probably handle that. Brett, it really depends on the size of the project, but by utilizing the integration connector you've just seen, typically clients can see a reduction in time to get their content to market by up to about 70%. So I know a few of our clients had mentioned that ordinarily doing things the old way without this integration, it could take usually up to a month if they were trying to do just a few web pages and up to say 2 or 3 languages. And they've been able to cut that down to only about a week or less. And that can be even quicker depending upon whichever translation agency you work with. So some of the timing does depend upon the vendor, but obviously this connector drastically reduces the time associated with deploying those campaigns. Thanks for that question, Brett. Next one looks like it's from Rebecca. Probably good for you here, Michael. She asks, she heard you mention an on-premises solution was also available. How long typically would it take to deploy an on-prem solution?
Yeah, so our system is configured in such a way where it can be used as a SaaS. We'll host the system for you. But if you would like to run this entire platform internally, we can configure an integration. We can configure basically a system on-prem. It takes about a day. It all depends on where you're going to be hosting it, how you want to deploy it. We have different deployment scripts that can configure and build the system based on your requirements. So it's just a matter of learning your specific requirements.
Awesome. Let's see. Next one looks like it's from Jeremy. He said, can we work with our existing translation agency on those projects through your platform, or do we have to use one of your vendors? Absolutely, Jeremy. You can use whoever you like. As I mentioned earlier in the webinar, we're 100% agnostic here. So obviously, we don't have any say or financial gain one way or another. If you're happy with the agency you've been working with, like I said, we can onboard them in the same onboarding phone call when you guys subscribe. It's really just a matter of probably a 30-minute phone call, give them a username and login. That way they'll be able to receive these projects and upload them back into the website as well, the platform here. Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. So either use your own or use our vendors, not a problem. The next one looks like it's from Celia. Can you guys translate themes and plugins? We have a lot of product descriptions on an e-commerce store. Maybe that's good for you here, Michael.
Yeah, so themes and plugins already support. Let me go to import sources right here. And if I go back again to WordPress, notice the other 2 tabs here, the plugin and theme. So let's actually look at the plugins here. So we can use, I think at the moment we're using, actually let's go to the themes. We're using the WPML theme, so let's import that. So what the plugin basically does, it communicates again with the WordPress server and looks for the POT file inside of the plugin folder. If it doesn't find the POT file, it actually has a mechanism to generate a POT, which is a PO template file on the fly. It actually does it has a very smart code scanner that will scan through the code, extract all of the localizable content, put in a special file, and then give it to us. So now if I go to sources now, and I look at the themes here, here's the theme, here's our brilliant theme, and I can look at all the strings. So all the strings were pulled out from the file. I can now translate the theme exactly the same way as I did with everything else before. Let's go in here, let's place an order here. We'll use again for this demo, we'll just use Google. And let's try to say we translate to Greek, the preview order and complete order. And once the order is completed, we simply gain. It's just the same process. We simply go ahead and publish the theme back to the WordPress site, and it receives the PO file now. converts it to a MO file, and stores both of them in the appropriate directory within the WordPress. So, and because of our translation memory, if any of the plugins or themes have already been previously translated, we have a huge database of translations already. So it's very likely that me just doing the translations right now, and anybody else trying to reuse the translations for the same theme, they won't have to translate it again. It will automatically use it for them. Let me go back to sources now. So here's our theme, and I just did it for Greek, so I publish it back. So now theme goes in Greek right back into WordPress, and that's it pretty much. The process completed. And the same thing applies to plugins as well. So we can easily translate themes and plugins using our software.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see, we got one here from Richard. He asks, what file formats do you support? Richard, currently I know we're supporting XLIF, RTF, .ptp, obviously Word documents, .x, .doc, PDFs, .txt, JPEGs even, Notepad, Bitmap, XLSX, even audio file formats like MP3, MP4. I guess, Michael, is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything that we can't support? I do believe pretty much the sky's the limit, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so we consider, we treat files in kind of two different categories, parsable files and non-parsable files. So basically, there's a certain formats that we can extract content from, you know, any type of localization file format we support. Even document files, we can extract content from them and send it for translations in whatever format the translators expect. But then there's some other formats, like for example, Jonas mentioned images or audio. To some degree, we don't really have any capabilities right now to extract content from them, but we do support them. So you can upload any file format to our platform, and we'll be able to pass it to the proper provider LSP that does support the formats. So you can upload and store any file formats in our system. For some, we'll be able to handle them ourselves. For others, we'll divert them to a company that does handle them.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we've got a question from Katerina. She says, we're using a technology that doesn't seem to be currently supported with an integration by your platform. If we were willing to help pay for the building of it, how long potentially would it take you guys to build it?
Yeah, so again, if you have any type of integration requirement that you need immediately, let's discuss it. Let's take it offline. We have a very robust team of engineers that we can build integrations very quickly. So we just need to learn a little bit more about your requirements and what type of integration it is. But typical turnaround, we can turn out within a week for sure. So or less.
Awesome.
Complexity.
Perfect. Well, that seems to be it from the questions. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, if anybody's just joining us late or had to leave early, we're more than happy to answer any questions or have a phone call offline. We do also have a referral program here. So anybody that you're aware of who's interested, and if you want to just refer them and make an introduction to us, we do compensate up to 20% of the contract value for anybody that does subscribe to our platform. So again, feel free to reach out to any one of us. I'm at Jonas at translationexchange.com, Michael at translationexchange.com, and Tristan at translationexchange.com. Or you can go to our website as well and contact us that way. But by all means, happy to compensate for any referrals that you guys send our way. Other than that, really appreciate you all for joining us. Again, we'll try to get a copy of the link to the recording out by email. It'll also be posted on our YouTube channel probably within a day or two. So definitely stop in from time to time. But we really appreciate it, and keep an eye out for the next webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us today.